These sets of tutorials, what we are going to be doing is building up a number of templates. Now, what I plan to do, I'm going to first of all start off by showing you how to make this type of template. Then in the next video, we'll look at creating something like this and so forth as we go on, just to give you a few different ideas in terms of layout and style that we can make. So as you can see, I have set up a template page. And all I've done, I've made blank pages for each of my pages. So at the moment, there's nothing on them. It's just they all look identical to this original template that I've made. The other thing that we have done, if I just expand the DOM, you can see there are containers here. So these are what is going to hold our content. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off making something like this, which is going to be a big sort of area, which we're going to put some text in. Then we're going to make a smaller area with some text, and we're going to put an image in. We're also going to have a bar then in the middle just to separate. Now, I'm not actually going to type some text in here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use a text generator just to show you some sort of padding and what type of text that we can sort of add in. So first thing, obviously we have a container here. Containers are great because containers can be used to store things. So I can, if I wanted to, insert under the HTML, I can insert a paragraph. And if I nest that inside, what that does, it puts another container in. You can see it's slightly indented, that's fine. But what this does then is allows me to put some text in. Now, if I didn't have this paragraph and I pasted text in direct, watch what happens. So I'm just going to paste some text in here. This is just filler, Lorem Ipsum, and you can see it's done a nice job. It's reasonably well formatted. If I press enter there, you can see I put things onto a new line. I do have some basic editor options on the bottom here. If I switch to HTML, you can see I can do bullet points. We can indent stuff slightly, and if I wanted to, I could change the text for something. Now you will notice by pasting in, it's also put the paragraph in for me. So it's got the tags there already set to go. Now you can see with this container here, there's nothing in there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a dark background in. By doing this, we're going to use these properties. So what I'm going to do is just add here and then .bg-dark. These are built in. And this is just added now a little bit of a background color here. Now, can you change this background color? Of course you can. I'm not going to in this tutorial, but I might show you in future tutorials. But you can see there's a few other options. If you start typing .bg- and then type wait, type a dash and then wait, you'll see then a few different presets built in. Okay, so the next thing we can do is we need to now make something that looks a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some text on one side, and then we're going to put an image on the other. Now, in order to do this, what we are going to do is we're going to use a special tool. So if I click on my insert and then switch to Bootstrap components, we're going to add in a grid row with columns. Now, bearing in mind, I've clicked in this container because I wanted to go inside here. So I'm going to click in here. We're going to nest it, and we're only needing 2 columns for this one. Now, when I put this in, you'll see not a lot happens. We've got content goes here, content goes here. And if I just delete this very quickly, and I'm going to delete this one very quickly, what you'll see then is you'll have 2 different columns that I can click on. Now, I'm going to put some text in one of them just to pad it out a little bit. Some text over here. Let's put that there. And straight away you can see it's added the paragraph in there for me, which is nice. And it's got this sort of design done, which doesn't look too bad. Now over here, I want to put an image in. Now, one of the things to note is you have a little bit of control with these containers. Now, when I click on the container, what you can do is you can move it in. And if we move it in, what we can then do is we can move this out. Now you'll notice something peculiar is happening here. As I move this out, you can see there's a sort of shaded area. think of the shaded area like almost like a breakpoint in Word where nothing will go there. So basically it's going to be a bit of blank space. You won't actually see this shaded mark. This is just in the development view. Now if I move this over, what this does allow me to do is move this one over, and look what it's done. It's moved this text box over a little bit, and it's kept rather the little shaded area here. So what we're going to do, we're going to insert an image. Now I've already got some images that I'm going to use. I've saved them earlier, so I'm going to go back to my HTML, and we're going to insert an image. We're going to nest it because we're putting it inside, and then we're going to choose one of these images. Now, one thing to note, Dreamweaver doesn't support WebP formats, so I've downloaded a WebP image, but you can see it doesn't accept that at the moment. There might be an update soon, who knows. So what I'm going to do is just click on one of these images here and click open. Now what it's done is it's thrown the image in, and this is quite a large image, so it's just thrown it in at its default size. Now you can do one of two things. You can either change the width and height here, you can fix it. So let's say for argument's sake we wanted to make this a little bit smaller, we could say right 220, and now watch what happens when I click up here. It shrink it down here. But what I want to try and do is I want to make it responsive. So what that would mean is it would respond to the size of the container it's in. So if I just return that to 1024, if I click on the three dots or three dashes here, so there's three dash here, and click on make responsive, what it does is it tries to get it to fit then the size of this container. Now I'm going to add in a little bit more text here just so that it makes the design look a little bit nicer. And as you can see, I've still got that little bit of space between everything there. Now, one thing that I am going to do is just show you what this looks like. So if we click on the preview here and then preview in Safari, obviously if you didn't want to click on the preview at the bottom, you could click, there's a file context menu, real-time preview, Safari, it does the same thing. Now this is saying that I've modified some Bootstrap. I don't recall modifying Bootstrap, but I'm just going to replace it, just in case I did modify something that I can't remember. So obviously not happy with that. Let's try it again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I have had this happen before. If I click on the Bootstrap CSS at the top here, it's obviously thinking I've modified something. If you click on that, I'm just going to make it writable. And then I'm going to save all. File, save all. Okay. Now, I might have changed something. I can't remember changing something, but I might have. So if this does happen to you, click on it, click on make writable, and then just go file, save all again. Right, this should work now, fingers crossed. Just go file, real-time preview, Safari. Here we go. And there we go. Now, the advantage of doing this is that we have made a responsive design. And what's it mean by responsive? Well, it means when I make this a little bit smaller, you can see the two buttons that I've got now have stacked, which is exactly what I wanted to. The text has gone in line, and the image there has flown underneath. So as you can see, as I'm resizing, the image is resizing to fit the container until we break out, and then we have that there. Now, one thing to note, my image that I've used as a header at the top here isn't that big. I didn't make it that wide. Although I have made it responsive, there is a limit to what it will go to. Now, if I click on this image here, just to show you, you can see it's 1600. Now, if we make that, say, 2000, actually, I made it 20,000 by mistake. So if we make that 2000 now, let's just go File, Real-Time Preview, Safari. What that will do is it'll stretch it out to a maximum there of 2000. So it doesn't actually alter the image too much. It's just saying what its extreme can go to because I've made it a responsive image. Okay, so that is essentially the majority of what I need to go through. There's one or two other little bits and bobs that we can do. If we wanted to make a heading on this page, let's say for example this is our home page, so we wanted a message like a welcome, hello, or whatever. I'm clicking on the top paragraph here, and what I'm going to do is, because I'm on HTML here, heading one, if I just click on this, you've got H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. These are all basically pre-built headings, the pre-built styles. So if I click on heading 2 as an example, now it's asking me what I want to do with it at the top here. If I want it before, after, wrap, or nest. Well, I actually want this before this because I'm on the top there. So let's put it before. And as you can see there now, I've got welcome there, so that then stands out. Now what happens if I didn't want that to be heading 2? Now if I look at this for a second, if I highlight it and I go back to the HTML, you can see here I got the format option here. If I go to heading 1, you can see it makes it slightly bigger. If I go to heading 4, you can see it's slightly smaller. If I go to heading 6, it's slightly smaller again. So you can play around with these different styles and so forth. Now you'll notice I have left a gap here. Let's make that gap smaller and let's see what that does. Now notice this container's moved over. Let me resize it out there. So this now should be the full width there with a very small gap there between the text and the image. So let's just see what that is. This comes down to personal preference, right? There's no right or wrong way of doing this, but it does come down to obviously a personal preference. You can see there now there's less of a gap there. It still fits really nice, and the image, because it's responsive, will resize quite well. So essentially that is how we would make that sort of style with the image on one side, text on the other. And again, if you wanted to flip it around the other way, you just do the opposite. You just put the image in that container and the text in the other.